Hello, good morning. Happy Wednesday, y'all. It's halfway through the week. And I don't know about you, but it feels like it's been a long week already. But I hope that you all are doing well this morning. I wanted to jump on real quick and do a video. I want to talk to you briefly about self-awareness. Self-awareness, like what is self-awareness? And that's what we're going to talk about briefly today. So self-awareness means that you have the knowledge of yourself. You understand your habits, your likes, your dislikes. You know what drains your energy. You know your needs, your weaknesses, your strengths. Like you have knowledge about yourself. You understand your emotional responses, like the things that trigger you emotionally. And there's a famous quote by Socrates that says, "Know thyself." And that's like, it's like a directive to develop, for us to develop self awareness. And I really enjoy the journey of like self discovery, increasing my awareness about myself. It's not always fun, and there's work to be done, but there's a lot of benefits to it. One of the things I'm sure that most of you have taken a personality test. And I would love to hear, what personality test that you have taken, which one you liked. Maybe there was one that you felt was more accurate than others. I personally, I like, of course, we all have taken Myers-Briggs, and I also like the Enneagram. So, I mean, there's a few others out there, but the important thing to keep in mind is that there's no personality test can explain everything about you. It's not possible. But there are some that get really, really close to really explaining your ways, personality wise, why you are the way that you are, why you prefer certain things. And I think that those are a great starting point for increasing your self awareness, and that the journey of just increasing self awareness, self discovery. And really, I guess we could put it all under self improvement, but it just gives us a great starting point to start. But then, some people have asked, well, why is self awareness like even important? Why do I want to increase my self awareness? And the reason you want to increase your self awareness is because, look, life is challenging, right? Would you agree? I think 2020 has proven that alone. It's challenging. We don't live this life by ourselves. We have to interact with people. And oftentimes, because of different things that have happened in our life outside of our control, we develop habits, patterns of thinking, behaviors that don't necessarily net us the results that we want in life, in terms of the type of life that we want, the type of relationships that we want to have. And so when you increase your self-awareness, when you have a better understanding of yourself, what happens is that those things that we just develop out of hey mommy those things that we develop out of a habit, we're doing those things on autopilot. And when we are increasing our self-awareness, we come off of autopilot and we take over control of the vehicle, if you will, you being the vehicle. And so you have the ability to respond instead of react to external situations, to people. You can pause and think before you speak, before you send off that email, that text. You are taking back control, and you're not just doing things just because, which oftentimes can lead to a lot of regret, some guilt, and that's what we don't want. You can cause damage to relationships, maybe burning bridges that you can't repair. And that doesn't really get us, I believe, the desired results that we want in life, or the type of relationships that we desire to have. So, and self-awareness, it takes time, because the reality is that many of us have been on autopilot for many, many years. So it doesn't just happen overnight. We can't just erase what's been done and in one day, or maybe in 1 week or 1 month. It takes time. And it's important to remember that self-awareness, the self discovery is a journey. It's not a destination. It's not this place that we get to in life and we're like, okay, I'm good. I know me and I can just sit back and relax and just live life, because we're constantly evolving in life. Our interests change, our relationships change, our priorities change. And so when we think of self awareness or self discovery as a destination, it oftentimes is going to lead to disappointment or frustration, because you're going to get to this said destination and realize that there's more work to do, or that there are going to be things that are going to come up and you're not going to know how to handle them properly. And so we want to, excuse me, we want to make sure that we have the right perspective, that it's a journey and it's not a destination. So enjoy it though. Enjoy it, be flexible, take notes and apply what you're learning, and just work on it. Work on yourself, work on the things that you are learning about yourself, and practice implementing them, whether it's in your self-talk to yourself, your self-talk, or in relationship with other people. So I want to ask you, what, on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate your self-awareness? Like, think about that. I think that most people are at least a 3, at least a 3. And depending on, maybe your age, where you are in life, with the work that you've done, you might be higher. For me, I would put myself at a 7. I know that I still have a lot of work to do, but when I look at 5 years ago, I had definitely come a long way. And I've had people tell me that, because part of my journey is talking to people about me. What have you noticed? Like, what do you notice about me? Are some things that you think I need to work on? And then having people be like, I remember when you used to do this, or you would have responded like this, without me even asking. And that shows me that I've grown, that I've become more aware of myself, my habits, my responses, or my reaction. And now I'm more likely to respond. I don't always, but I'm more likely to respond versus react. So that's important. So think about where you're at, and then I'm going to give you some suggestions, some tips on how you can work towards increasing your self-awareness. And before I give you the tips, we all have blind spots. And so one of the things that I suggest is always talking to people, asking for other people's suggestions, because they're blind spots. You don't know about them. If you knew about them, there wouldn't be blind spots. And so when it comes to self-awareness, I look at it like this. I look at it in 2 different ways. One aspect of self-awareness is like having to go to there's something in the attic that you need, but you don't really want to go. Like, the attic, it takes work to get to your attic. At least in my house, you got to pull down the stairs, and it's just a lot of work. And sometimes it's like, I don't even really want to go up there and deal with all that involves and entails to get to this thing or to get to these things. And I would rather just not. So part of self-awareness is just making the decision that I'm going to go to the attic. I'm going to go to this place. I'm going to do what's required to deal with said things, these personality traits, these behaviors, these thought patterns, and really go after it and do what's required to address it. And part of exposing those blind spots is that, people are going to bring things up when you ask them, or even in your own time of reflection. Things are going to come to the surface, and you're not going to want to deal with it. You're going to rather it stay in the attic. But I'm going to encourage you, don't just walk away. Don't just say, forget it. It's not important. It is important. Go after it, address it. And it's going to be uncomfortable, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. The other part of self-awareness is being willing to not just say, I'm going to do the work. I'm going to address the things that need to be addressed, but it's going below the surface. I think that we, as people, have a habit of addressing the symptoms of our behavior, and the symptoms of things, but we aren't really willing to do the work to go below the surface and get to the root problem. I love flowers. I actually started a garden. I'm really proud of it. I'm maintaining it. I didn't think it was going to last as long. And I had this plant that It was doing well, was watering it, doing all the things I was supposed to do, and noticed that it was starting to wilt. And it wasn't looking so good. So I was like, okay. So I kind of repositioned it and water it some more and just really gave it, was nurturing to it, even talking to it. And it perked back up. So I was like, okay, I did my thing, right? I fixed the problem. I fixed it. We're good to go. Well, a couple of days later, I started noticing it was doing it again, but it looked worse this time. It probably wasn't a couple of days. I mean, it was a few days, maybe in a week. And I couldn't understand what was wrong because I seemed like I thought that I did everything right. I thought that I had addressed the problem. Well, I decided to dig a little bit to get below the surface. And what I learned was that the plant was really outgrowing the pot. The root system had grown and was growing through the holes, the drainage holes in the pot, and it needed to be repotted. So I could have kept fertilizing it and watering it and putting it in this position, but it wasn't going to ever fix the problem. I was addressing symptoms. And that's what we have to do with ourselves. We can't address the symptoms. We have to address the root problem. And that requires going below the surface. It requires spending some time with ourselves, some time in reflection, being introspective. And so let me give you, I was going to talk about some of the benefits of it, of self-awareness, but let me give you some tips, some things that you can do to increase your self-awareness. And then if we're still good on time, I will go back. I'll talk about some of the benefits and why you would even want to do this. But hopefully you kind of already are picking up on why it's important and some of the benefits of increasing your self-awareness and why we just need to be self-awareness. So if you have ever seen any of my posts, whether it's on Facebook, social media, even read my blog, journaling is something I talk a lot about because it's something that I've implemented in my own personal life and I love it. Even if it's just 10, 15 minutes a day, journal. Journaling is a powerful, powerful tool for learning more about yourself, recording what's going on in your life, recording your thoughts, recording situations like disagreements that you may have had with your boss, coworker, your spouse, friends, recording it from first person perspective, third person perspective, just different perspectives. But first of all, just start with journaling, especially if you haven't journaled. I just say 15 minutes a day, journal. Journal what happened that day, what you thought about, what you did, what happened, what didn't happen, challenges, journal. And then go back and reread it. Don't just journal and never go back. It's journaling and then going back at some point and reading what you wrote. It really does begin over time, give you perspective about yourself. Another thing that I would encourage you to do is to meditate. I used to be like, meditate? I don't have time to meditate. You want me to sit still? Yes, sit still. Take some time to meditate. You can learn a lot about yourself through meditation because while you're meditating, a lot of times thoughts pop up into your mind. So you can learn a lot about yourself from the thoughts that come to mind. It actually allows you to learn how to create a space between your thoughts and your emotions, because thoughts are thoughts and then emotions are emotions. Emotions don't have to necessarily be attached to the thought. So meditation is good because breathing is also good. There's a great book called Breathe Like a Baby, and meditating or breathing can actually, it helps with reducing your stress. So learning about breath work is another tool that I would attach to meditate in terms of just helping learn about yourself. And then once you learn about yourself, especially how you deal with stress and what stresses you, learning different techniques to help you cope with stress. Learn to view your life through the eyes of other people, of the eyes of someone else. So imagine that you were a fly on the wall, as we say, or invisible stranger that was observing your life for a week or for the day. And be objective. Like, what would you think? What would you think? What would you think about you? What advice would you give you observing yourself? What does the way that you spend your time say about yourself? So looking at your life, looking at your behaviors, What does it say about you? What would you say to you? Also, think about, and I mentioned this more before. Think about how you deal with stress. How do you handle stress? What are some of the things that cause you stress? Why do they cause you stress? How do you treat other people when you're stressed? And so it's looking at your behaviors and asking yourself some questions about it. What challenges have you caused for yourself by dealing with your stress poorly? That's another good one. And then from there, it's developing a plan of action. With all of these, with all the questions, is developing a plan for how you want to move forward. Like, what's the next step? How, if this is where I am now, but this is where I want to be, what's my plan? Spend some time listing your goals and your values and your priorities, because that's self awareness too. Like, what are your goals? What do you value in life? What are your priorities right now? Because that's what gives you direction, gives you purpose. That gives you the answer to your why. And when you know the answer to your why, then it gives you more confidence when you have to make decisions and sometimes say no to things that you would love to do, but you're saying no because you understand your goals, you understand your values, you understand your priorities. So it gives you guidance, it gives you direction and purpose. And you're doing things in purpose and not just because I feel like that's just what I should do. No, why are you really doing it? I would also encourage you to look at your relationships, past relationships, current relationships. Those are important. A lot of times our relationships or friendships end and they just end, but we don't sit down to think, man, like, what what went wrong, or what are some things that I learned from that relationship that I can take into the next, or that I don't want to take into the next relationship? What about your current relationship? What challenges are you facing? What challenges could you face in this relationship? What do you bring positive to the relationship and negative? You and these are things that really help you to go below the surface. Remember, I talked about the symptoms and then getting to the root. These are questions that really help you get to go below the surface and start addressing the root problems of different aspects of your personality, your behaviors, your emotions, your thoughts. So those are a few. I want to recap those. So keeping a journal. You want to meditate, view your life through the eyes of somebody else. Think about how you deal with stress. List your goals, your values, right? Your priorities. I mentioned this earlier, but ask people for their input. Ask your friends and family for their feedback. They are the ones that are most likely going to be able to tell you about the blind spots that you are not aware of. They have they have a perspective that you may not have, and ask them to be honest. And don't just ask one person. Because one person is just one perspective. Ask multiple people. And if you ask several people, let's say you ask three people and they all have a different list, but there's one common thing that they keep bringing up, that's the thing that I think that you should give some attention to. Not that the other things that they bring up aren't important and that they shouldn't be addressed, but if everybody's saying this one thing, then that is definitely this one thing that you want to make sure that you add to your list of things that you want to look into more and to move forward in addressing. So making sure that you ask friends, list your goals and your values, look at your past and current relationships, and those things I think combined together are a great way to just begin this journey of increasing your self-awareness, the journey of self-discovery. So start, I think earlier we mentioned the personality test. Do that, take it, let that be a starting point, and then start to incorporate these other things alongside that. And I honestly believe that you will begin to see change happen. Your behaviors will change, the way that you interact with people. You'll stop and pause before you do things. You want to get to the point where you're not just living life on autopilot. You really do, because I've been there, and it's a lot of I'm sorries and a lot of guilt and some regret for how I handled situations that, looking back, I was like, that was not good. But I didn't know then what I know now. And that's the beauty of the journey. Some of the benefits of increasing your self-awareness, kind of just what I said, but it's less regret, less guilt. You have more confidence in your decisions, in yourself, because you know yourself. You know your whys. You know how you operate. You know why you do the things that you do. And so you can be more confident in the decisions that you make. You're more emotionally aware of yourself. And so you can identify your emotional patterns, and you're able to deal with them better. You're also you're also able to improve your relationships with other people. And this is important. We are meant to be in relationship with other people. We're going to be in relationships with people, whether it's platonic, romantic, work relationship, and you want them to be healthy. You want them to be as productive as possible. Um, and when you know yourself, when I know who I am, when I know about myself, when I know how I operate, I'm able to communicate that to other people. I can explain to them why it is that I would prefer that they do it now, why I'm so, just the way that I am, which also benefits them because it helps them to learn me. But when I have a better awareness of myself, I'm able to better articulate it and communicate it to other people, which just gives them more awareness about me. And then they have more insight in how they need to deal with me. So it goes two ways, really. Um, Also, we are. I kind of talked about that. Since communicating with clarity. Um, the other thing that I would say about self awareness is that you really do have an accurate self assessment of yourself. As you begin to understand especially like your strengths and your weaknesses in the workplace, this is a great thing. And self-awareness is a part of your emotional intelligence. But when you understand what you bring to the table, you can sit at the table with confidence because you say, I can do this, I can do that. Nope, I could do it, but I'm probably not the best person for the job. You can be honest, and you can say it from a place of honesty and comfort. You're comfortable acknowledging what you can do and what you can't do. And you don't have to prove yourself to anybody. You're like, no, this is who I am. This is who I am. This is what I can do. This is what I can't do. And you can be comfortable in that space and avoid taking on things that you know that you are not good at and creating stress in your life, right? And so it allows you to really have a better self-assessment of yourself. And so you can better communicate that to other people and take on things that you can do, and turning down things that are probably you're not best suited for. I think that most of us are pretty good at figuring out what makes our friends and family members tick. We understand them. We can identify when they're having a good day, bad day, like their mood. We got them figured out. And so I think that it is, but for some reason, it becomes challenging when it comes to ourselves, right? We don't have that same level of awareness. And it's just interesting because we spend most of our time with ourselves, but we don't have that same level of awareness when it comes to other people. And so the reality is, because we aren't spending the time with ourselves. Self-awareness requires you to develop a relationship with yourself. You got to develop a relationship with yourself. And so I encourage you to spend time with yourself, invest in the relationship with yourself as well as others, but also with yourself, because when you invest in a relationship with yourself, it allows you to have better relationships with other people. And so to start the journey of self-discovery and increasing your self-awareness, I would encourage you to start from a place of honesty. Be honest with yourself. You can do this in journaling because nobody's going to read it. Nobody's judging you. It's a safe place. But start from a place of honesty. Start from a place of compassion and love and acceptance. And this is what I mean by acceptance. Accept like, look, this is who I am. Like, this is who I am now. But just because this is who I am now doesn't mean that I have to stay in this place. But I accept that this is where I am right now. Okay. So honesty, love, compassion, and acceptance. And from there, the journey, it's difficult at times and it's going to be work, but it can be enjoyable. You can read things about yourself that can be difficult to read, hear things about yourself that are difficult to hear, but it doesn't have a negative effect on you. You welcome the feedback, you welcome the advice that people have to give to you in order to move forward on this journey. And so, as we close, I want to, the last thing I want to tell you is I actually have a test. I will, if you're interested, I'll send it to you. Actually, I'll put the link in the comments, a self awareness test to give you an idea of where you sit in terms of your self awareness, and then a worksheet to just help you to begin the journey of increasing your self-awareness, some questions that you can take and answer them in your quiet time, in your journaling time, moments of reflection that I believe that will really help to just move the needle in terms of your self-awareness. So I'll make sure to put that in the link. In the coming weeks, I'm going to be back on. We're going to do a part 2 to talk about some of the mistakes, though, that we can make on this journey when it comes to increasing our self-awareness. So be on the lookout for that. I'll post that on the page when we get the date and the time. And I love talking about self-awareness because the power that you tap into as it increases is amazing. And you just are on your way to developing a, a different and better, you're still yourself, but you are going to just operate and move through the world in a different way, in a healthier way, and have a better relationship with yourself, but also with the world. And I think that it's a beautiful thing if you really just embrace it and you push through it, especially in the difficult moments, but also learn to celebrate the accomplishments, to celebrate the little movements, the little victories that you have along the way. Don't beat yourself up. So um, I'm gonna close with this. Self-awareness is not the absence of mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, but it's your ability to learn, adjust, and to correct them. So accept the fact that there's going to be mistakes along the road, along the journey, but learn from them. Learn from them. Make the needed adjustments, correct them, and keep moving forward. Don't let it discourage you from doing the work. Don't let it discourage you. Keep going. And so until next time, um, be on the lookout for part 2. But until next time, bye bye.